Filibusterismo Chapter 24 to 31. The reporters are Brigitte Agwazan Danjali Alanjalanchal Jane Lumpeo Daniel Siligan Mylene Tagalagon Roland Keat Kim On Nicholas Galaros Julio Neri Jr. Producing the characters.
Characters from chapter 24 to 31. Pauleta Gomez, the girlfriend of Isagani and niece of Doña Victorina, the old India who passes herself off as a peninsular, who is the wife of the quack doctor Tiburcio de Espadania. In the end, she is Juanito Pilaes Arwid, and she dumps Isagani believing that she will now have future if she marries him. Isagani, poet and Basilius' best friend, portrayed as emotional and reactive. Pauleta Gomez's boyfriend before being dumped for fellow student Juanito Pilaes. Binzaib Abraham Ibanez in his real name. He is the journalist who thinks he is the only one thinking in the Philippines. Doña Victorina was a socialite and friend of Captain Tiago. She, along with her husband, Don Tiburcio, sought to associate themselves with the influential figures of San Diego in order to gain further social status. Don Tiburcio, a Spaniard who speaks with a stutter and looks significantly older than his 35 years. Don Tiburcio came to the Philippines as a customs officer, but was dismissed upon his arrival. Makaraig, the leader, he is described as wealthy with his own coach, driver, and set of horses. He said to own several houses, that he is lending one to serve as the schoolhouse for their planned Spanish language academy. Simon is the main character in Jose Rizal's two El Filibusterismo novels. In Rizal's second novel, he returned as a rich jewelry salesman, Simon. He is known to be the influential in the Spanish colonial government in the Philippines and has links to the Captain General. Father Irene, Capitan Tiago's spiritual advisor, along with Don Custodio. Irene is severely criticized as a representative of priests who ally themselves with temporarily authority for the sake of power and monetary gain. Basilio, son of Sisa and another character from Nolame Tangere. In the events of El Feli, he is an aspiring and so far successful physician on his last year at university and was waiting for his license to be released upon his graduation. After his mother's death in the Noli, he applied as a servant in Capitan Tiago's household in exchange for food, lodging, and being allowed to study. Father Fernandez, a Dominican who was a friend of Isagani. Following the incident with the posters, he invited Isagani to a dialogue, not so much as a teacher with his student, but as a friar with a Filipino. Capitan Tiago, Don Santiago de los Santos, Maria Clara's father, having several land holdings in Pampanga, Binondo, and Laguna, as well as taking ownership of the Ibarra's vast estate. Tiago still fell into depression following Maria's entry into the convent. Captain General, the highest ranking official in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. The Captain General in the novel is Simon's friend and confidant, and is described as having an insatiable lust for gold. Quiroga, a Chinese businessman who aspired to be a consul for China in the Philippines. Simon coerced Quiroga into hiding weapons inside the latter's warehouses in preparation for the revolution. Don Custodio de Salazar Y. Sanchez de Monterredondo, a famous contractor who was tasked by Captain General to develop the Students' Association's proposal for an academy for the teaching of Spanish, but was then also under pressure from the priests not to compromise their prerogatives as monopolizers of instruction. Father Camora, the parish priest of Tiani, Benzaib's regular foil He is said to look like an artilleryman in counterpoint to Bensib's friar looks. He stops at nothing to mock and humiliate Bensib's liberal pretensions. Tandang Selo, father of Cabezang Tales and grandfather of Tano and Huli. Juliana de Dios, the girlfriend of Basilio and the youngest daughter of Cabezang Tales. When Tales was captured by bandits, Huli petitioned Hermana Pinchang to pay for his ransom. Sandoval, a peninsular who had come to Manila as a government employee and was finishing his studies, and who had completely identified himself with the cause of the Filipino students. Juanito Pilais, Isagani's rival for Pauleta Gomez's affection. He was the son of Timoteo Pilais, a metalworks trader. He was a favorite of his professors. Placido Penitente, a student of the University of Santo Tomas who had a distaste for study and would have left school if it were not for his mother's pleas for him to stay. Father Hernando de las Cibaila, a Dominican introduced in the Noleme Tangere, who will now serve as the director and chaplain of the University of Santo Tomas.
Chapter 24 Dreams. While waiting to meet Paulita, Isagani overhears Vinzak talk about Simeon falling ill and refusing to see even the Captain General's men. Isagani thinks bitterly about the care given to the rich and constructing lack of attention to sick soldiers returning from fighting abroad. Paulita arrived and acts resentful at Isagani for his having paid too much attention to the opera's performers. She forgives him and explains she was only at the performance hoping to see him. They laugh that is actually Doña Victorina, Paulita's aunt, who is in love with Juanito. Isagani reveals that Don Tiburcio, Doña Victorina's husband, is still in hiding in his uncle's home. This turns their conversation to Isagani's town, for which he expresses a deep love, as he describes its beauty and his happy diversions there in former years. But Paulita refuses to travel to it without a coach. Isagani is optimistic and eventually expects progress and a much better future for the Philippines, owning the youth in Madrid, working for its welfare. Paulita is doubtful and declares these sentiments dreams.
Chapter 25 Smile and Tears. Makaraig and the other students celebrate their loss at a pansiteria and put on air of force gaiety. They launch into mocking jest, dedicating the soft bones to Don Custodio to make a project out of. They then dedicate the lumpia to Padre Irene, the crab omelette to the prize for the crabs that they are, and they stewed noodles to the disorganized government. Pexon then jestingly takes the aspect of an Augustinian preacher. He joked about the utility of prayers in life, the necessity of their hairy limbs in sustaining unity, and the need for scapularies and masses to occupy people and have something to put their money on. The student later noticed they are being watched. The spot Padre civilized men leaving the pansiteria and entering Simeon's garage with acknowledged men.
Chapter 26 Pasquinades. Basilio sets out early to inquire at the university about his license and to ask Makaraig for help with the cause, having spent most of his money in ransoming Julie. Along the way, he learns from acquaintance that subversive Posters had been found at the university gates and the Students' Union, of which he is a member, is being blamed for it. He met Sandoval who seems unable to hear his call, and then Tadio who thought ecstatic over the cancellation of classes, thinks every union member will be arrested. He also encounters Juanito Vilais who denounces his involvement with the union. At the university, he hears Isagani berating student for pleading at the threat of imprisonment. Basilio turns away from him and proceeds to Macaraig's house where he and Macaraig are both arrested.
Chapter 27, The Friar and the Filipino. Padre Fernandez hears Isagani's impassioned speech to his fellow students and asks to speak with him. He asks Isagani what the students want of the friars. Isagani tells him to do their duty to improve the development of the youth and not to stifle the pursuit of education. The priest declares education should only be given to the morally worthy. In response, Isagani blames the failings of the subjugated Filipino to the conquerors who have had centuries and yet supposedly failed to mold the moral character of an oppressed people. Padre Fernandez deflects blame by reasoning that the friar are limited by the government laws. He asks Isagani for a simple request that the friars can grant, and Isagani asks that students be treated better, to which the priest responds that the students should change first. Isagani reminds him of what happens to students who stand up to their professors. The priest commits to speaking with his brethren about Isagani's thoughts. He invades the Jesuits who were responsible for Isagani's early education. The Jesuits, however, openly denounce Isagani. So, si Isagani ay isang estudyante. Isa ito sa mga kabataang matuwid at may sariling paninindigan. At si Padre Fernandez naman ay isang praile. Ito ang kaisa-isang praile na kanyang itinatangi at ipinagtatanggol sa tuwing may maririnig na pagbabatikos dito. Ipinatawag siya ni Padre Fernandez sapagkat nalalaman niyang sila'y kabilang sa mga kabataang may panindigan. Dahil mahigit 8 taon ng katedratiko si Padre Fernandez, ngunit minsan man ay wala siyang mag-aaral na naglakas loob na magsalita laban sa mga praile. Dahil kung meron man ay pinaratangan itong filibustero. Kabaliwan ang magpakita ng tunay na kalooban dahil uusigin pagkatapos. So, kay usaman sa estudyante si Isagani nga may sariling panindigan dayon tungod adtong sa iyahang tungod adto na natuligsa siya or na denounce si Isagani.
Chapter 28, Tatakot. The incident about the subversive posters results in a great deal of unease among many people. Quiroga sets off to see Simon about the rifles that jeweler had stored in his warehouse. Simon, still refusing to see anyone, leaves a message for Quiroga to keep the rifles where they are. In the afternoon, there is talk of students having allied themselves with outlaws to take the city by surprise. Padre Irene tells Capitan Tiago that some have advised the Captain General to implement a reign of terror. The more moderate suggest only a show of force. Captain Tiago passes away of fright from the priest's stories. In other places, the prevailing feeling of anxiety leads to a number of unfortunate consequences, such as an officer mistaking the commotion at a baptism for a riot, and 2 individuals getting shot by mistake. At the silversmith, where Placido Pinente lodges, he and Simon's pyrotechnists joined the Smith workers just as they finished swapping theories about the posters. The pyrotechnist cautions everyone to prepare, as there may be a massacre in the evening.
FILIBUSTERISMO Chapter 29 Exit Captain Tiago. Padre Irene is the executor of Captain Tiago's last will and testament, which divides most of his wealth among the nari of St. Clair and various other religious entities and orders. He revokes Basilio's legacy of 25 pesos, but Padre Irene declares he will pay this anyway out of his own pocket. It is said Capitan Tiago appeared to the nuns radiant and dressed in a frock coat. People believe he has been saved due to his numerous masses and pious legacies. His funeral rites are first class, filled with many prayers, rites, incense, holy water, and tolling of the bells. Okay. Everything that is stipulated in Capitan Tiago's last will and testament is fabricated by Padre Irene. This way, the church get the most out of the riches of the deceased, and his loved ones and relatives are greatly bereaved and deprived even of their rightful inheritance. This is the notes, guys.
Chapter 30 Julie. News of Basilio's arrest reaches San Diego, and Julie is devastated. More so because people say the arrest was motivated by revenge against her and her father. Julie thinks Padre Camorra may be able to help free Basilio, but shrinks from approaching him when she remembers how the priest asked her for certain sacrifices in exchange for his having procured Julie's grandfather's freedom. A traveler from Manila soon relates that all the prisoners have been released except for Basilio, who has no influential protector. This finally convinced Julie to see Padre Camorra. On the same day, she visits the priest. A girl is said to have thrown herself from a parish window and died. The following day, Tandang Selo, grieved and stricken, takes his hunting spear and leaves the village forever.
Chapter 31 High Officials. The girl's death and even her identity are largely left unremarked by both the newspapers and local. Even Padre Camorra leaves town for another. Meanwhile, through the intervention of their relatives, the detained students are released except for Basilio, who is further accused of possessing the prohibited books. The Captain General keeps him detained to maintain the appearance of authority. One high official advocates for Basilio, believing he is innocent, and argues with the Captain General. The official tells the Captain General to treat the Filipinos better, to give no cause to reproach Spain. The official ends up resigning shortly after the argument and heads back to Spain.
That's all our report. Thank you for watching.